from them. So a couple of takeaways for me, Dave. I think there are a number of guys on the roster that need to do more. And I also think that there are a bunch of guys that are, let's just go through the list. Stevenson, Marchessault, Nick Waugh, Alex Pietrangelo, Nick Hague, Robin Leonard, all have stepped up big time. And have, those are key reasons why this team is 500 at this juncture and not a lot worse. There are other players, on the roster that need to do more. There are some guys that are treading water when they need to be really plowing forward here. So we'll see if being home for the next 6 helps in that regard. I guess the other big thing for me is I understand why you would lean on Robin Leonard as much as you have, and I guess that's fine. But don't be surprised if Brossoit struggles when you put him in like he did yesterday, because he hasn't played. It had been 10 days since his last start, and it just really looked like the big thing for me was he struggled to track the puck, to follow the puck. And Mike Rizzotti has an expression. He says he really trusts his eyes. And if the goalie can trust his eyes, he finds the puck and he makes the save. And the one goal, Fabry's goal, Martinez is pushing out to pressure Fabry, and Brossoit, does he lean in or does he lean out?
He looks left.
Yeah,
left, and Fabry shoots it back to the right.
And Fabry shoots
side.
Across him,
Yeah.
So he just went to the wrong side. And that's one of those things that when you're in a rhythm and in a groove is less likely to happen. So, I don't think Brossoit was awful by any stretch of the imagination. You'd like him to have made, let's 1 goal for sure you want back, and maybe 2. And that's the difference in that game is against the Red Wings is power play, special teams, and goaltending.
Yeah, I think
Grace was excellent.
Yeah, terrific. I think the third and fourth you could look at that he gave up. The third one, the Suter, and we were kind of picking through it a little bit after the game. Suter, the initial shot gets blocked by Martinez, and then Suter picks it up, and I'm not sure if Brossoit had a chance to kind of reset himself because he went down for the initial shot. I looked at it again this morning. It did kind of look like he was ready for the second chance. The fourth one, and Shane picked this up, and again, I kind of wanted to rewatch it. I thought initially that Nemesnikov kind of went upstairs. It went short side, but I thought it went upstairs. He put it off of Brossoit's far pad.
Yeah.
Like his left pad, if Nemesnikov's over here, he put it off this leg and in. I thought it kind of went over his shoulder, off his shoulder. That's pretty good to be able to bank it in. I don't know if it was planned or not, but it was a heck of a shot to say the least.
Here's the other thing that like if you look at Montreal's a mess. Ottawa, that they play hard. They don't have enough players. Detroit is skilled, high end. Dylan Larkin was, top shelf yesterday. Mo Seider, the young defenseman, really good and involved. Bertuzzi, I'll get back to Bertuzzi in a second, but he was excellent. Lucas Raymond is excellent. We talked to Nick Consonica from NHL.com, and he was explaining to us that over the 25-year run, where the Wings were in every year in the playoffs, Ken Holland kept borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, kept trading draft picks to get players to keep them relevant and in that moment. And then they went 3 Stanley Cups over that period? 4.
97, 98, 02, and 08.
Yeah. So 4. Well worth the experiment. Blows me away that people in Detroit were glad to see Ken Holland go at the end.
My heavens!
What do you want? Anyways, their average draft pick, their average highest draft pick over that period, 38th. So their average highest pick was never in the first round. Yeah. It was always in the second round. And now that the roster that they have right now, last year their roster was second oldest in the NHL. Now I think it's 7th youngest, and all of a sudden the average draft selection of this team, 28. Yeah. So you're starting to see, and the highest pick they made over that 25-year stretch was Keith Primo at 3.
Yeah.
And they haven't had a high pick like that.
And that was before they were good, right?
Yeah.
Like 1990,
yeah.
91,
and
something
then they
like
didn't pick high again until they picked 4th when they got Lucas Raymond.
Yeah.
And
30 years later.
Yeah.
Literally.
So but like you have to, and for Golden Knights fans, like you might want to pay attention because this is what happens when management, does, like, this is how you win in the NHL. Brian Burke always says there are two places to be in the NHL: getting good really fast or getting bad really fast. If you're in the mushy middle, you're nowhere.
Limbo's not good.
Yeah, you just don't win. So I thought the building started to come alive a little bit yesterday. Had an interaction with Steve Yzerman in the hallway yesterday, which was different than I watched Steve play junior. He played junior in my hometown, and he was really, I don't want to use the word high strung, but he was pretty intense during his time in Tampa, and I think a lot of that had to do with his running the national program for Canada as well, the Olympic program. 2 cycles, 8 years he spent. He won 2 gold medals, so it was
worked out okay.
Certainly worth it. But
Yeah.
he walked by me yesterday. I was on the phone, and he slapped me. Excuse me for this. Slapped me on the back as I was walking by him, and it was just kind of, I was like, huh, happy Steve.
Good to see you, Lawman.
Good to see you.
Well, a couple of points. You mentioned people in Detroit are happy to see Kenny Holland go.
Make sure we get back to Bertuzzi, too.
Oh,
before,
yeah.
No, you go ahead, but we'll just make sure we get back to him.
A, they like the 4 cups just fine under Kenny Holland.
Yeah, for sure.
B, he did a heck of a job, Gary, in finding guys late. Henrik Zetterberg, Nick Lidstrom, Pavel Datsyuk. None of those guys were high picks. I want to say Zetterberg was... back when they had 9 rounds, he might have gone in the 9th round. You joke around. They were drafting guys when they were turning out the lights at the draft. And those were some of the guys, the cornerstones of some of those great teams, because they didn't have high picks. They got these guys late. Yeah, then as they kind of built it, they brought in free agents or made trades. They brought in Shanahan. They brought in Hull. They brought in Robitaille. They brought in Hasek, the whole 9 yards. But they did a heck of a job, because they didn't have high picks, of finding diamonds in the rough that were cornerstones of those teams. They were so good for so long, they couldn't draft high. 25 years in a row, they make the playoffs. Eventually, you're going to pay a price for that.
Yeah.
But now, Steve Yzerman knows how. When they drafted Steve Yzerman in 1983, they had missed the playoffs 5 years in a row. And it was in a stretch of which they had missed it 15 out of 17 years. They called them the Dead Wings.
The Dead Wings.
That's where they were.
Things.
Yeah.
Actually, in some places. But continue.
That's where they were.
Yeah.
And then they drafted this guy named Steve Yzerman. And it was not overnight. It took a while, even with him, for them to get to where they were going to go.
Well,
but,
they didn't get to where they were going to go until Scotty Bowman arrived.
Until
right?
the mid-'90s.
Yeah,
right?
And, Yzerman scored 100-plus points every year, and Scotty said to him, you need to decide if that's what you want to do or if you want to win Stanley Cups.
Yeah. So anyway, your point on Tyler Bertuzzi.
Well, I'm trying to call it up, and my internet's is not really flying. So maybe Dakota can help me for this. Where he ranks in scoring in the NHL right now, and he just missed 3 games when Detroit went up to Canada because he isn't vaccinated. Can't go play in those games.
He's the only player in the league.
He's going to miss 9 games when they
6
play
more
in Canada if he doesn't change course. I don't know why he's not a consideration to play for Team Canada at the Olympics. And if he is, maybe Doug Armstrong should do Steve Yzerman a favor and pick up the phone and say, hey, Tyler, I'd like to look at you, but if you don't get jabbed, you can't come.
Don't be afraid to pick up a vaccine.
So I'm not going to waste any time on it. And listen, I'm not suggesting we all have our reasons for what we do, and what do I care if he's vaccinated or not? He doesn't play for the Golden Knights. So I like a political stance, whatever it is, Aaron Rodgers research. I don't care. I really don't. I don't. But you just think what a fantastic young player he is, and how dynamic he is, and like they're a playoff team or right about one right now.
Yeah.
And they lost all those games in Canada. They went 0-3.
Yep.
Took him out of the lineup. Like if I'm Jeff Blashill, I'm going into Eisman's office and saying, this doesn't count.
Yeah.
Like if we don't make the playoffs this year, that's not on me.
Yeah. Go talk to him. We missed by 3 points.
Yeah.
And he missed 9 games in Canada.
The guy missing the front tooth. Talk to him with the crazy hair. Talk to him.
Oh, hey, and one more, and just to follow up on your point about the first-round picks, right? Where Detroit did not draft high for so long because they were so good, and they had also traded away a lot of those first-round picks to bring in players that helped them win championships. The Golden Knights, Gary, have traded 4 first-round picks, right? The first 3 they had ever in 17 are all gone. In Glass, Suzuki, and Brandstrom. And then they just traded their first-round pick in 19 with Krebs going in the Jack Eichel trade. So it all kind of there's a lot of different ways to build it, and the haul they've got back for these players is pretty. We know Stone, Pacioretty.
Oh yeah,
Eichel. We'll see if the Cody Glass one works out with Nolan Patrick, but the larger point, it's been pretty impressive.
Bertuzzi's 5th in the league in scoring.
Yeah.
He's 3rd in the league in goals.
Yeah.
But not playing tomorrow night.
No. They were down.
So Montreal, sorry. Not going to pass. Go and collect my 200.
Go over the border to Toronto. Can't make it. They were down 3-1 in Buffalo Saturday with 7 minutes left. He scored 2 goals, a minute and a half, and tied the game.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yep, he's excellent. Yeah. Well, lots to come here on Nighttime at noon, and including Golden Knights General Manager Kelly McCrimmon is going to join us. We're going to hear from Jack Eichel. We had a great half hour with Jack earlier today. Gary and I, along with Shane Knighty and Dan Duva, for our podcast, the Sheriff Lawless and Some Guy Named Dave podcast. We're going to pull a couple of excerpts from the podcast and let you hear that as well. Quick reminder for you that be one of the first to join the Vegas Nighthawks family. Secure your seat selection priority today by placing a refundable $20 deposit at nighthawksfootball.com. Full season membership will start at just $10 per ticket per game at the brand new Dollar Loan Center located in Henderson. It is Dave and Gary with you, Nighttime at noon. And GM Kelly McCrimmon of the Golden Knights scheduled to join us here momentarily, Lawman.
Quick shout out for I'll struggle to say this correctly, the Vegas Junior Golden Knights girls 12U team went to a tournament in Austin, Texas this weekend, 4-0, won 1-0 in the final, and came home with a bunch of gold medals.
Shut it right down. I saw a picture on, would it be your Twitter? Or Instagram of your daughter with the old gold medal.
My daughter with
fantastic.
I didn't put her on the Twitter.
On the Insta.
The Twitter is business, and the Insta.
Okay, I don't know. You're busy. I don't know how you use all your social media accounts.
Well, you don't tweet about your band, but your band, double minors on your Instagram.
Good point by you.
Same thing.
Yeah, there you go. So congrats to them. Went down there winning. Just took care of business in Austin.
Good for them.
Way to go.
Yeah.
Nighttime at noon. Dave and Gary, GM Kelly McCrimmon of the Golden Knights expected to join us next on Fox Sports Las Vegas. Be with us here on Fox Sports Las Vegas, nighttime at noon. Dave Goucher, Gary Lawless, and we are joined by Golden Knights General Manager Kelly McCrimmon. And Kelly, it's been certainly a busy time for you trying to get this Jack Eichel trade made. Now that it's all said and done, this kind of this whole experience, what are some of your takeaways on how you were able to get this done and make him a Golden Knight?
Well, it was a long process. I think really goes right back to September when it was clear that Jack Eichel would be moved. Where we had interest in him. We had conversations with Kevin Adams at that time that went right through September, October. It just went on and on before a deal could be done. We were pleased last Wednesday night, I guess, when the deal was consummated. We made the announcement on Thursday, and since that time, real excitement being here, no different than yourselves, meeting Jack in person today for the first time and seeing how excited he is about joining our organization. I guess overall, just the importance of adding that type of player to our team, to our organization, we thought was the right thing for us to do.
He's excited. He said he's more motivated than he ever has been in his life. He said some people have written him off, and he doesn't understand that, but he's excited to straighten that out. That's obviously, you know what you're getting in a player, but having a player with a little bit of edge in his mind is never a bad thing.
Well, I think one of the things that we really like about Jack that I touched on when I did media availability that the day of the trade is his competitiveness. He's a really competitive player. You see that in his game. Our pro scouting staff talked about that a great deal. And to your point, he'll have something to prove, because this is going to be an opportunity for we hope him to play on a playoff team. Of course, we've got to take care of that in his absence, but puts him in a situation where he's going to be playing incredibly meaningful games at that time of year, and we're expecting and excited for him to be really excited and motivated when those opportunities come.
I spoke to somebody the other day, and they said Jack's introduction to your dressing room will be what should have been his original introduction to the NHL. He's going to go in and not have to be the straw that stirs the drink, and the cup. He's going to go in and just be one part of the package, because there's already so many good players and so many leaders in Vegas.
Yeah, we've got a really good leadership group. We've got a good dressing room. We've got real good experience. We've got Stanley Cup champions in there. We've got high-end players in there, and I think for Jack, he comes in and just plays hockey, and he's real good at it. He's a great player. He's a great talent, and we think that surrounding him with the right people is going to make him even better. And he's played 6 years now. He's an established NHL player. He's still only 25 years old. I think that we're going to get the best years of his career.
Just young players really well. You ran junior franchise for a long time. When you say that he's played 6 years, he's 25. Like, the best might still be ahead, or is very likely still ahead. He might still, like Connor McDavid's getting better right now. I would imagine Jack Eichel might have some improving to do as well.
I expect so, and it's interesting you make the comment about Connor McDavid. When we played Edmonton, and just watching the early stages of the year, he's he is improving. He is still hitting his peak, and talking with different people. In fact, talking with Pat Brisson, who represents Jack, and a host of other star players, most notably Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon. He spoke about the decision that those players made to not be satisfied with being really good players, but to being great players, and that's what you've seen with McKinnon, with Crosby. As you touch on Connor McDavid, there's a group of those players around the NHL that I think just take their game to another level because of that desire and that burning willingness to try to be a great player. So that's right where Jack is. His last full season was 2019, 2020, I believe. He played 65 games that year. He had 36 goals, and was well on his way to being that great player. So we look forward to him returning to health and finding that level of play.
Golden Knights General Manager Kelly McCrimmon joining us, nighttime at noon. I'm always curious, Kelly, when you make a trade of this magnitude, and you worked on this in September. You're talking about almost 2-3 months here that this went on to try to acquire Jack Eichel. Are there highs and lows in that process, and were there times along the road where you thought this just might not get done?
Yeah, there's always those ebbs and flows in discussions with another team. A large part of it is a feeling out process in terms of establishing what's important to in this case Buffalo, what's important to us. It's working with your pro staff, with your cap people in terms of what the logistics of a deal would look like, what you can do, how far you can stretch in terms of making a deal happen. And a lot of times there's a lot of discussions. In fact, there's far more situations where discussions take place and a trade is not made. So that's often goes without anyone even really being aware that those type of discussions have been held. In this case, I think we persevered and paid a high price with the players that we put into the deal and the draft pick that we put into the deal. And we did that because we felt that strongly about what Jack is going to bring to our team.
You mentioned the draft picks, Kelly, and we've kind of touched on this. Your amateur staff, and you've drafted so well over the last, the history of this franchise. You've got the 3 first-round picks from year one that you used to, to acquire players, and then Peyton Krebs from 2019. Could you touch on that balance of you've got real good young players you draft high, but sometimes those picks can turn into real good players that are established in the league and stars in the league?
Yeah, it's a different way of managing your prospects than likely what my DNA would suggest. I'm a big believer in drafting and developing players, and I think what goes into it is where your team is at, and that's where I think some of these decisions have been based around. And when you go right back to that first year when it went so well, we went to the Stanley Cup finals. We overachieved in so many different ways, and yet when we looked objectively at our team, if we wanted to continue to be a contending team, we felt we had to make our roster better. So that's where the rationale would have come from behind the trade for Max Pacioretty, then later that year Mark Stone, and we've our amateur staff, there's none better in terms of the experience and the expertise that group has. And I always take the opportunity when asked to explain to fans just how little glory there is in what those guys do. 25 days of a month to go all over the world. Our 3 of our guys are flying to Europe today for a tournament over there. So they work extremely hard to put players into the pipeline. We've included them in terms of our discussions and the rationale behind the moves, but it's only because they've done the job drafting that they have that we've been able to make the move. So Eric Brandstrom going into the deal for Mark Stone, Nick Suzuki, which was a great pick by our staff, going into the deal for Pacioretty, Glass for Patrick, which was a swap of players from the same draft, and now Peyton Krebs being part of the deal that brings back Jack Eichel. So these things going to tie into where you think your team is at, and they're maybe not for everybody, but we've thought about these decisions long and hard, and have made them for the reasons that we've made them, and are confident that we've done what is in the best interest of the organization, which is how you make every decision, is what's best for the Vegas Golden Knights.
Well, and the cupboard isn't dry by any stretch, bare by any stretch of the imagination. Brandon Brisson ranked third in the nation in goals so far this season. He's got 7, and he's tied with. There's a bunch of guys at 7, a bunch of guys at 8, and Taylor Ward all alone at 11. Jackson Hallam is having a real good start to his USHL season with. I believe he's with the Green Bay Gamblers. Just talk a little bit about some of those prospects, and maybe start with Brisson because we were just in Michigan.
Yeah, we were in Michigan. Brendan actually was a guest of ours at the game last night. He's a player that Bobby Lowe's and his staff really felt strongly about. The year that we drafted him in what I call the Montana draft. So what would that be, 2020, when we had our first virtual draft. He was a player at that time from the Chicago Steel of the USHL. And the skill and the hockey sense is what jumps off the page with Brendan Brisson. And then from there, it's development. So he's on a good path at University of Michigan. He had a real solid season as a freshman, but what's exciting for us right now is just the progression he's shown in his sophomore year on a tremendously talented Michigan team. He's now, I think, up to 192 pounds. He's a good size player, and he can score. That's, I guess, what really is appealing about his game is he scores, and that's obviously important. You didn't mention a guy like Ivan Morozov, who's been out of sight, out of mind a little bit for us because he plays in Russia, but he's a guy that's going to be an NHL player almost certainly. Jackson Hallam, you touched on as well, who it was interesting. That draft in 2020 was held early in October, and really where Jackson moved up our draft list was what our scouts saw in him in September of that year in Minnesota high school, and probably wasn't a guy that we would have drafted as high had the draft been held in June when it traditionally is, and we knew right away from his season last year that we got a good one with that pick. So yeah, that's the work that they do, and again, I enjoy scouting myself. I've done lots of it, and know that staff extremely well, how good they are, how hard they work at it, and it's a huge part of our organization.
Jackson Hallam will be forever remembered for Dave and I as the guy that, he was writing a math test when
he was between classes.
Someone knocked on the door and said, "Hey, do you want to go on the radio with these guys?
Do I have to?
These Golden Knight guys up in Montana." So I've watched a bunch of video of him. I am not a scout, but I can tell when the guy is the fastest guy on the ice, and that's him.
Yeah, he definitely is a great skater, really brings speed to the game.
Hey, one more for you, Krim, before I let you go. We've asked you a lot about Jack Eichel and about really the future with some of your prospects. What's your read on your team in the present here through not quite a full month of the regular season?
Yeah, I'll answer that in the short term. Just before we close the loop on the trade and Jack Eichel, because this is for Vegas Golden Knights fans, I would just like to speak to Alex Tuck, what he meant for our organization. A tremendous young guy. You talk about development. He came here as a real good prospect that hadn't quite found his way as an NHL player, and all he did was play great hockey for us, and knowing the person, he's a fantastic young man. Never feel good about trading players away. It's the hardest part of the business. I'm happy in Alex's case that he's going to the state of New York where he's from. He's going to be a great player for them, and then just with Peyton, who we did touch on a little bit, is a great young prospect that's going to be an NHL player for a long time. So I would be remiss to talk about the Jack Eichel trade without paying a compliment to both of those young guys, and wishing them the very best. I'm a guy that when I do make a trade and trade a player away, I hope that the guy does great, and I hope and expect that both of those players are going to do really good things for Buffalo. With respect to the short term with our team, it's been a real challenging start to the year, and you never, I've made the comment to Gary different times about every team runs its own race, and last year it seemed like we won just about every time that we played. We had 40 wins by the end of the year. I don't think that we had a losing streak that was more than a couple of games long, and the team was just in contention for the President's Trophy right down until the final game of the year. This year, with similar expectations and a similar lineup, there's been a lot of challenges put in front of us that you deal with, and you can't you can't complain about it or feel sorry for yourself. You have to work your way through that, which is what we're doing. And for me, it involves treading water a little bit, giving guys more responsibility, bringing some players up from Henderson that are getting an opportunity to play NHL games, relying on really solid goaltending from Robin Leonard, who's been fantastic to start the year, and that's what it's going to look like for us for a little while. So we'll add players back to our lineup here in time. I think that my experiences over the years, if you can have some of the players that are getting more responsibility take a little bit bigger steps development-wise than what they might have had the team been healthy, you end up with those guys being a little bit better. And then when you put some of these guys back in the lineup that are out of our lineup, they're among our best players. So it's going to be a real shot in the arm for us when that time comes, and you need to weather it in the short term, and that's what we're doing.
Kelly, thanks for this very much. We appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks guys.
Kelly.
Anytime.
Kelly McCrimmon joining us, general manager of the Vegas Golden Knights, on Nighttime at Noon. We will hear from Jack Eichel and his time with us earlier today after this on Fox Sports Las Vegas. Rolling along here on a Monday on Nighttime at Noon. The Golden Knights fresh off what has been so far their longest road trip of the season, their longest in a while. They go 2-2 on the road. And we had Kelly McCrimmon on here just a moment ago. Great to always catch up with the Golden Knights general manager. Quick reminder for you Golden Knights fans, if you need more hockey, make sure to check out the newest team in town, the Henderson Silver Knights of the American Hockey League. Single game, group, and mini suite tickets for home games for the 2021-22 season are on sale right now. Contact the Henderson Silver Knights ticketing team at 702-645-4259. You can also check them out online at hendersonsilverknights.com to learn more. What did you learn from our chat with Kelly McCrimmon that you didn't already know? Or did you already have it embedded in the – did you have it on the hard drive in the coconut already?
No, Kelly's a fascinating guy, I think. We were in Michigan yesterday. He went and played at Michigan and graduated from business school there. At one time, and some people may not have heard this story, when he owned the Brandon Wheat Kings, one winter while he owned the Brandon Wheat Kings, he was the head coach, was the owner, the general manager, the head coach, and times were tight, so he got his bus driver's license. And when they would go on long rides, and the normal bus driver, after he had driven a certain number of hours because of safety, couldn't drive anymore, Kelly would take over and spell him. And all the while during this, he was doing his executive MBA from Queen's University, which is considered it's not the BU of Canada.
No, it's not.
No, more like the Harvard of
Nothing
Canada,
is.
Which is a bit of a step up, but he's a pretty fascinating guy. He's a pure hockey guy, but he's also pretty accomplished in other areas as well. So I like listening to him talk and trying to learn from him. I saw Brendan Brisson at the arena yesterday, and I wasn't sure if he wanted to share that with the listeners, and I thought it was great that he did. Have you seen much of his? A
little bit highlights that we've done
Yeah.
a couple of segments on Lawless and Order. Yeah.
Well, the coach at Michigan says no one has shot the puck at Michigan like Brendan Brisson since Max Pacioretty was there.
Yeah.
So that just tells you the quality of the shot from the young man. So I'm excited to see when Brisson turns pro. I'm excited to see Jackson Hallam is going to Michigan next year. So those are the kind of the two of the highlight picks. And you mentioned Ivan Morozov, and the reason I didn't mention Ivan is because he's playing in the KHL, and there's interesting reports on him. The fact that he has not signed a contract extension there, so he could come over to the NHL. Actually, he could come over to the NHL at the end of this season when the KHL is over. He could come to the NHL. Who was like that? Gusev came.
Sure.
Came at the very end of a season.
Didn't play.
Didn't play.
Took warm up a bunch, but practiced.
Yeah. But Morozov, he could play for Russia in the Olympics. He's of that caliber. He probably won't because looks like they're trying to kind of punish him a little bit to convince him to. It's a whole village project over there.
Hold his feet to the fire, literally.
Yeah. We want you to sign this contract and stay in the KHL. So if you want to play in the Olympics, that's what you'll do. And if you don't, you won't play for Russia.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way over here.
Well, what I found interesting talking to Kelly McCrimmon too, and look, there's all different ways to build your organization, right? And they have drafted so well here with high first-round picks. And the point he made to us was, look, we looked at our team after year one objectively, and obviously we overachieved. But they went to the Stanley Cup final in this incredible ride. We knew we had to get better in certain areas, and they wanted to do that immediately. And they trade, Nick Suzuki in the Max Pacioretty trade. And then later on that season, they had Mark Stone. So it was because I think people kind of wonder about that. Like, you've got these high picks. What was it? They had 3 in the top 15, 16 in that first draft ever, right?
Yeah, the Glass was 6.
And then-
Pacioretty, then Suzuki was like 9 or 10, and then Brandstrom, I think
6,
14
15,
or whatever.
yeah.
And then Haig, right at the top of the
Right.
second round.
High second, like 34th or something.
Yeah.
Now they trade Krebs. But his point is, it all depends on where you're at in the life of your team. And if you're this, we've heard this phrase a lot. If you're in the win now mode, and they are, then those are the trades you make. The Detroit Red Wings are in a different, they're in a different spot. They're rebuilding, right? They drafted Raymond high. They drafted Sider high. They drafted Zadina in the first round. They're in a different boat. This team expected to win right now. If they can take these first round picks and turn them into established stars in the league, Stone, Pacioretty, Eichel, that's a whole different deal, and you sacrifice those picks for those sorts of players.
Well, and you can't forget that the plan was to even get more picks, and then they were in first place in December.
They kept winning.
They kept winning, and you're supposed to put your foot on the brake. It was a runaway 18-wheeler going the right way. You let it roll.
Yeah, and they've done that,
Yeah.
and they've tried to strengthen the team every single year. All right, before we go to break, we've got going to play a quick excerpt from you here. We had Jack Eichel taping for our podcast earlier this morning. That will come out, should come out later today or this evening. And it was myself, Gary, along with Shane Knighty and Dan Duva. We had a great half hour with Jack. He was very generous with his time. But Shane asked him just where he's at with his motivation level, this entire saga he went through in Buffalo and now here in Vegas. Not sure if that took or not. We kind of heard it in our headphones, but we're not sure if that actually went on the radio and on the stream. Well, we'll paraphrase the answer. His motivation is as high as it's ever been. And that's saying something for a guy that came into the league number 2 behind Connor McDavid in that draft in 2015. But, we were kind of talking a little bit with Kelly McCrimmon about this, Gary, right? He's gone through a lot. I don't think he's appreciated some of the things that were said about him in Buffalo and how he was portrayed at times in Buffalo. Fresh start, but also for a guy that's already an established star in the league, I think he feels he's just kind of scratched the surface.
Well, yeah, McDavid's all by himself, right? And then I think you have a group of players, and listen, you have to kind of say Nathan McKinnon is alone at number 2 right now. I'm not sure that Eichel can't get to the same spot as him. That's something to be unveiled as we move forward. But I think you put Eichel with a group of guys. Austin Matthews, Braden Point, Sidney Crosby at his stage of his career, and that's rare air right there.
So there was Jack Eichel. We weren't sure if that took or not. We kind of heard we heard a funky echo like you were listening to something from the 60s in your headphones.
Let's break and come back
we'll step
and talk
aside
about him.
and talk about more about the Jack Eichel trade, our visit with him earlier this morning. Fox Sports Radio and Nighttime at Noon on all the Golden Knights social media channels. Back with more after this. One final segment here on a Monday as the Golden Knights get ready to kick off a 6-game homestand at the Fortress, starting off the Seattle Kraken on Tuesday night. A reminder for you that the spectacular Hotel Californian in Santa Barbara, California is the newest exciting addition to the Foley Entertainment Group. Experience an extraordinary stay in one of 121 luxury guest rooms and suites. Taste the region's finest wine at Foley Food and Wine Society Tasting Room. And treat yourself to unparalleled massages at Majorelle, the Moroccan-inspired spa, all in the heart of the American Riviera. Designed for domestic and international guests alike, Hotel Californian is the perfect destination for any traveler seeking a one-of-a-kind luxury experience. Hotel Californian in Santa Barbara's premier urban district. Visit hotelcalifornian.com to book your stay today. Dave Goucher, Gary Lawless with you. Nighttime at noon, we were touching Gary on the motivation for Jack Eichel, which he said is really at an all-time high for him. And it was funny. You threw we had a great exchange with him. You threw a question at him of what happened today in 1971, and he kind of looked at you. And what did you tell him? Why is this date significant in the world of classic rock?
Zeppelin 4 was released 50 years ago today, and it, by many considered. Born to Run, Who's Next?
Sergeant Pepper?
No.
You wouldn't agree, I'm just
Zeppelin
saying.
4 and
Everybody else
AC/DC Back in Black, sort of the great class. The Beatles I don't really consider classic rock.
No. Hotel California?
Yeah, Hotel California, yeah. That's a good five-some there.
Yeah.
But like if you're listening to a classic rock station, they'll have a Get the Lead Out every day at 5 o'clock, and they'll play a Zeppelin track. And Zeppelin 4 for me when I was growing up. If you went to a party that was a little heavier, Zeppelin 4 would be on the rotation. Yeah. Other parties you'd go and Prince's Purple Rain would be playing. It was it depended on if you were with the parking lot crowd, the jocks, or the theater crowd. I like to kind of mingle with all three crowds.
You'd have a mixture of starting slow and then ending fast, or Stairway to Heaven on Led Zeppelin 4, right?
Of course,
rock and roll right out of the gate.
Every dance at every high school I ever went to, every high school dance I ever went to, ended with Stairway to Heaven.
And you're not sure, so it's a slow song to start. So you start dancing with whoever you're with, and then. Yeah. Then it picks up. I was never sure what do you do now? Do you just kind of keep spinning around in circles?
The whole point was for a long slow.
That's right, and it followed up by Freebird.
You didn't need to.
The live version of Freebird.
The end of Stairway to Heaven, the lights went on.
Be out there for a half hour on 2 songs. But anyway, we found out.
Poor girl.
Yeah, poor girl, never going to recover. That Jack Eichel's a big classic rock guy. That was what we found out. Yeah,
that's why
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yeah,
I did a little homework for the interview.
Good for you.
Yes.
At least one of the 4 of us that were involved.
Said he grew up in a Clapton household.
Yes, and he plays guitar, trying to learn how to play guitar. He told us, and you hear this when the podcast comes out, he was living with Sam Reinhart earlier in his career in Buffalo. Reinhart was learning to play guitar, and someone that tries to play a little bit, he made the point, and he's right on. When you first start to play, it sounds horrendously terrible. And he said Reinhart would try to play. They were living together, he'd be playing in the living room. It's like, you got to go to your room. This is hurting my ears. I can't handle this. But yeah, he was telling us he's building a house right on the ocean in New Hampshire that is just kind of broke ground. And he's got a pretty extensive vinyl collection, which some of them, you think Jack just turned 25 a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how many 25-year-olds have much vinyl these days. Maybe they do, and I'm missing the boat. But he's got a lot.
No, the young kids are into it right now. It's become popular again.
So just a thought here, Lawman. We got a couple of minutes left. The Golden Knights starting this homestand tomorrow against Seattle. Kelly McCrimmon telling us, and obviously it's just been such a challenging first month of the season here with all the key people out. They're just trying to kind of stay afloat, see if they can string some wins together, and try to put some points in the bank, as many as they can, until some of the cavalry starts to return here at some point.
Yeah, hang on for dear life, really. Just, make sure, it's another McCrimmonism, stay in the pile. In the NHL today, there are 5 teams that usually will kind of pull away from everybody else. There'll be 5 teams that'll sink away from everybody else, and then there'll be 22 teams in the pile. And if you can stay in that pile long enough, you may get a chance to make a push and get into the postseason later on.
Exclusive game tomorrow, by the way, on ESPN Plus. No Shane, no Dave on TV. You can subscribe, go to ESPN Plus or Hulu for these exclusive games. That'll do it for us here today on Nighttime at Noon, Fox Sports Las Vegas. The Insider Show, Darren Millard and Ryan Wallace from 4 to 6. Talk to you next time on Nighttime at Noon, Fox Sports Las Vegas.